I thank him for his work as the ranking member on budget. Mr. Speaker, I'm about to say something that the American people don't want to hear. The swamp is back. Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order.
Gentleman's correct. Members, let's give everybody a courtesy, please. I know it's late. Gentleman may proceed.
Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. The swamp is back. Every day since January 20th, Democrats have sided with their special interest allies and ignored the real needs of the American people. The result is the bill before us today, or should I say tomorrow. Congress won't actually vote on this bill till about 2 a.m. Saturday morning. Why? Because, Mr. Speaker, Democrats are so embarrassed by all the non-COVID waste in this bill that they are jamming it through in the dead of night. We ran the amount of money that actually goes to defeating the virus is less than 9%. Less than 9%. So don't call it a rescue bill. Don't call it a relief bill. If you are a friend of the Speaker, you do pretty well under this bill. But for the American people, it is a loser. Let's consider Medicare. Tonight, CBO confirmed that this bill will cause $36 billion in cuts to Medicare starting this year. If you vote for this bill, I want you to go back to your district. Look the seniors in the eye. Look at the hospitals, those who have been working night and day, and tell them why you voted to cut their health benefits. Or consider the blue state bailout. This bill calls for states and local governments to receive $350 billion. Most states are not in financial distress. Nearly half saw an increase in their revenue last year. And some, even including my home state of California, the Speaker's as well, actually has a budget surplus. But none of that money is tied to reopening. Or consider elite institutions, Harvard and others. This bill calls for them to receive hundreds of millions of dollars. But Harvard already has a $40 billion endowment. Compare that to K through 12 education. This bill allocates only $6 billion to help reopen American schools in fiscal year 2021. More than 2/3 of the education funding would not be spent until 2023 or later. Almost every one of this bill's 592 pages includes a liberal pipe dream that predates the pandemic. Now let's check the fine print. On page 97, for those of you who've not read it, it hands out health care subsidies to illegal immigrants. On page 347, it fast-tracks $1.5 billion to Amtrak. Now, Amtrak has $1.5 billion from the last package they haven't even spent. On page 306, it gives federal employees up to an extra $21,000 to help cope with virtual schooling. Let me read that so every American understands. If you are a federal employee, you get an extra $21,000 to cope with virtual schooling. Because a lot of federal employees are going to vote for this bill tonight. But if you are one of the millions of parents outside of Washington, outside of the swamp, who are struggling through school closures, including the 1 million mothers who had to quit their jobs to take care of their kids at home with school, and the fathers that quit, you are ignored. And on page 358, it funnels, well, earlier it funneled less, just a little over $100 million, but last night the Rules Committee was able to add more, up to $140 million for a subway tunnel near Speaker Pelosi's district. When you add it all up, the size of this payoff is jaw-dropping. $1.9 trillion in new spending. It is the single most expensive spending bill ever. But will it help people get back to work? No. Will it help students get back in the classroom immediately? No. Will it help get vaccines to those who want it? The answer is no. It doesn't spend a third of the entire cost of the bill for another 2 years, undermining the claim that this bill is so urgent that this money won't be spent for another 2 years. It doesn't have any guardrails to protect against fraud, which has already cost taxpayers tens of billions of dollars, including especially in California. It just throws out money without accountability, even though we are over $1 trillion unspent from the last bill. President Biden promised unity, but Democrats are delivering a one-party rule. Mr. Speaker, based on the facts, the Democrat spending bill is too costly, too corrupt, and just too liberal for this country. To my colleagues who say this bill is bold, I say it's bloated. To those who say it's urgent, I say it's unfocused. To those who say it is popular, I say it is entirely partisan and has the wrong priorities. Republicans will support whatever is needed to get America back to work, back to school, and back to health. After 12 months of struggling, suffering, and sacrificing, that's what Americans want, what they need and what they deserve. That's why Republicans will introduce a motion to recommit, to bolster the resources of families can access to help their children cope with the emotional stress of school closures. And it won't be for parents who just work for the federal government. It'll be for all American parents. In every single district, if you watch, the anxiety, the fear for children have risen. To the 3 million children that now mark a year that they haven't been in the classroom. Our proposal would shift the $140 million from Speaker Pelosi's subway to grants that would be used for mental health services for children. It puts children first, not the swamp. Democrats have conveniently ignored the education and mental health crisis affecting our children, but failing to address it is unacceptable. Families deserve answers. Tonight they will finally get it. Our colleagues, it's a very clear and concise question you have before you. If you vote for the bill, you're cutting Medicare. You're cutting your hospitals. You're cutting your health providers with your vote. If you vote against the motion to recommit what you changed, you are picking $140 million that you just added to last night to a subway tunnel just outside of the Speaker's district. So who do you pick? All American parents to give them the grants and the resources they need to cope with their children's anxiety, the rise of suicide, and the mental health? Or do you think that subway is really appropriate right here, right now? Make a decision. Is the swamp back, or the hardworking American taxpayers come first? It's an easy question. It's easy for me to decide, and I think it's easy for America to decide as well. I yield back.
Members are